All right, today we're diving into a really provocative text that asks a question a lot of us have probably wondered about. Why do so many well-intentioned movements, the ones that are supposed to save the world, just fail? Let's get into it.
Think about it. This is the core paradox the author really wants us to wrestle with. Every single generation looks at the world, sees what's wrong, comes up with these big, bold solutions, and they go for it. But then, fast forward a decade or two, and we're often right back where we started, just fighting the same old problems with new names. What is going on?
And according to the source material, this isn't just bad luck or a coincidence. Nope, it's a pattern. A repeating cycle where these idealistic movements, born from the best intentions, somehow end up creating brand new problems or sometimes even making the old ones worse.
Now, what's really wild is how this pattern cuts across all kinds of history and all kinds of ideologies. You look at the post-World War II generation. They were horrified by war, right? And what did they do? They ended up kicking off a massive arms race. Or think about anti-colonial leaders who fought for freedom only to create their own ruling dynasties. The big push for planned economies, it gave us these huge bloated bureaucracies. But then the pushback, the free market reaction, it just brought back the kind of robber baron inequality we thought we'd left behind. Even religious revivals have soured into fanaticism. It just happens over and over again.
So here's the real kicker. It doesn't seem to matter what the ism is. Capitalism, socialism, you name it. The author's point is that the solutions themselves, the ones born from these grand ideas, are actually part of the problem. There's got to be some deeper, more fundamental flaw in the whole approach. So the diagnosis here isn't about bad politics or flawed economics. The author argues it's something much deeper. It's a flaw in the very way we think about solving problems.
You know how we love to frame everything in these neat, tidy little boxes, right? It's capitalism versus socialism, right wing versus left wing. But the author says these are just intellectual frameworks. They're rigid, they're mechanical, and they are missing the most important ingredient of all, humanity.
And this slide just nails the core distinction the author is making. On one side, you've got humanity, compassion, flexibility, love, all the stuff you need to actually understand a problem on a human level. But on the other side, you have humanism, which the author defines in a very specific way. It's a system that relies only on human reason and intellect, believing that our own smarts and innate goodness are enough to solve anything.
And just to be crystal clear, when the author uses the word humanism, this is exactly what they mean. It's an approach that basically shuts the door on anything that isn't pure, cold, rational thought. It puts all of its faith in human intellect alone.
And here's where it all clicks together. All those failed revolutions we just looked at, the author's claim is that every single one of them was a product of this humanist thinking. They were intellectually sound, maybe even brilliant on paper, but they were cold. They lacked real compassion. They were robotic solutions to deeply human problems. And that, right there, is why they were doomed to fail.
Okay, so if humanism is the problem, what on earth is the solution? This is where the text pivots and reveals what it calls the one missing ingredient that's essential for any real lasting change.
So the author proposes that the missing piece is love. And not love as some vague feeling, but as it's defined right here, patient, kind, something that does not insist on its own way. This is the polar opposite of those rigid, intellectually arrogant ideologies that have justified so much harm, all in the name of being right. Now, to get to that kind of compassionate mindset, the author throws out a really challenging idea, one that's designed to make us humble. They suggest that the fiery revolutionary fighting against a system today might have actually been an upholder of that very same system in a past life. So why introduce such a radical, out-there idea? Well, the goal is pretty simple: humility. If you can even entertain the possibility that you were once part of the problem you're now fighting, you can't really stand on a high horse of moral superiority, can you? That forces you to act with real humanity, with compassion, instead of just cold, rigid intellect.
And this brings the entire massive argument all the way down from the societal level to the personal. The new mandate, the new mission, isn't about overthrowing systems out there. It's about breaking a cycle deep inside yourself.
The author argues that society is so often driven by a small, passionate few because the vast majority of people fail to use their own willpower, what the text calls our spiritual power. This inaction doesn't just do nothing, it creates a massive power vacuum. To explain this dynamic, the text points to this spiritual law, and in this view, unused willpower doesn't just fade away. It's effectively transferred to those who are passionate, those who are taking action. Power naturally flows to those who are willing to use it. It's a use it or lose it kind of deal.
So this is a really crucial point. By the time some tyrant or some rigid ideology takes physical control of a society, the real battle has already been lost on a much deeper level. It's a spiritual conquest that happens first, when individuals just give up their personal responsibility and their own willpower.
And that brings us right down to this number, 1. The individual, you. The author's point is that society isn't some abstract machine. It's just the sum of all of our individual choices. So the ultimate responsibility? It doesn't rest with the system. It rests with each and every one of us.
So what's the ultimate takeaway from all this? According to this text, the only way to actually get off this endless merry-go-round of oppressor and victim, of failed revolutions and recycled problems, is to take a personal journey. It's a humble search for a deeper, spiritual kind of knowledge that goes way beyond simple intellectual, humanist solutions.
And that really just leaves us with this one big, provocative question to think about. After looking at generations of failed attempts to change society from the outside in, maybe, just maybe, the most radical, the most effective, and the only lasting revolution isn't the one in the streets, but the one that happens inside each of us.